There are a plethora of reasons as to why someone in their current day and age has a hard time setting and keeping and voicing boundaries. Perhaps in childhood you were never prioritized, and so you took what you could get as far as attention or care or nurture went. And so now you feel like you still have to take what you can get, and if you were to voice a boundary, it would lessen the amount of care or attention or amount of friends that you may have. Or perhaps there's the very natural fear that if you say no, the other person will be upset. They will resent you. They will in some way shun you from their life, and you will quote unquote lose that person. When is the last time you remember creating a boundary? And sometimes it's even harder to create boundaries with people that are closer to us, like family members or long-term friends or long-term relationships, romantic relationships, because perhaps there's the fear that they will then leave if you do, or the other person doesn't think that you will stick up for yourself, do something about it, stop speaking to them, or actually put forth a consequence for their actions, because you're family. You're always going to be family, right? But that isn't the case. Boundaries not only protect you, but they protect other people. There are two ways to set boundaries, and we'll dive a little bit into the first one, but mostly into the second one. The first one is setting boundaries with yourself. If you know you have a habit that is not serving you, if you know you have a tendency, an emotional response pattern, anything that is not aiding in the progression of your life or the enjoyment of your life in the long run, because these things may serve you well short term, like substances, like XYZ, boundaries, putting boundaries in place for yourself will help you from reaching those extremes. If you are, let's say, addicted to sugar, setting a boundary that you only eat sweets twice per week is a great way to find a balance of those things. If you have a boundary, or if you have, honestly, in my past, I had an exercise addiction that was fueled by an eating disorder. And so I had to quite literally set a boundary with myself for exercise. 1 to 2 days a week, nothing. If anything, walks, because that is not strenuous on the body. I had to set that boundary, and it was hard. Nobody said any of this is going to be easy, but it was worth it. So setting boundaries with yourself is also important, but we're not going to dive too deeply on that today. We're going to dive more so on setting boundaries with the external world, the people, places, and things outside of you. So how does you setting your boundaries serve other people? Let's dive into that. So not only does it serve and protect you, it serves and protects other people as well. For example, if someone always came to you for help on something that is in their job description, right? And you always said yes, you didn't have a boundary of saying no, they then would lose their skill set. They would not even learn in the first place how to do it themselves. They would get by through life based upon others' generosity, right? And then what happens the day you're not there, or the day that you say no? Now all of a sudden they are not in a good place. However, had you said no in the beginning, maybe they would have asked somebody else, whatever, but had you said no in the beginning, they would have then had to do the work themselves. They would learn from it. They would get a sense of fulfillment from it, right? So they are benefiting by you saying no. And you are benefiting by you saying no. Because now you don't have two people's jobs to do. Or what if someone kept asking you for $1 and you always said yes, and then they said, oh, you need to someone else, oh, you need $1? Well, Suzanne over there always says yes when I ask her, so you should go ask her too. And then all of a sudden now you have two people always asking you for $1. Eventually you will go broke, because I'm sure the word will spread, right? Who does that serve? Temporarily, maybe them, because now they have $1. But then when they come to you and you're broke because you've given away all of your dollars, now you are in a hard spot and they are in a hard spot. Whereas if you had said no in the beginning, or maybe said yes one time to that first person only, they would then realize, I have to find a way to make dollars. And then you would have all your dollars. And these are just very small examples, and I hope you can then apply them to larger things. But you have this bank account in which you can give dollars from. You have an energetic, a mental, an emotional, a physical capacity, a bank account, if you will. And if you keep extending and giving it away, you'll go into debt and have nothing for yourself. And again, this may temporarily serve others, but not in the long run. Like that old saying is like, give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime. Stop giving away the fish. And then this dives a little deeper into the next thing. Setting boundaries protects you from resentment. Not from others, but toward others. Like in those two past examples, you would have eventually resented the people who kept coming to you to ask for dollars. When is it truly their fault? No, because you're the one who kept saying yes. And this resentment harvests within you. It changes your perspective on people and favors and help. And then it makes you not ever want to ask for help or favors in a healthy way. Because now you have this association of resentment with asking for help. And so you're not going to do that because you don't want other people to resent you. And so it's this like feedback loop of resentment that could be created if you are not setting your boundaries. You're going to then resent the people who keep crossing your non-existent boundaries, crossing the boundary that should be there. And that is going to do. Resentment is like a derivative of anger, and anger is toxic only to the person who is holding on to it. And so in this way, boundaries save you, protect you, serve you, protect you, and save you from resentment. There is this tendency to start over-explaining, like over-explaining why you cannot help somebody, and you don't need to explain yourself. You can't, you don't want to, or you won't. There is quite literally nothing else needed. You do not need to justify your boundaries. So instead of going on a tangent of being spoken to in that way makes me feel disrespected because in my childhood, my aunt spoke to my uncle that way and I always witnessed it and I saw how sad she got, and then all of a sudden my dad started speaking to my mom this way and blah, blah, blah. And you don't need to go into all of that, okay? All you need to say is maybe not even the word because. You can just say, being spoken to in that way makes me feel disrespected. And here's the thing. Ultimately, you cannot control another person's actions. Just because you start creating boundaries does not mean people are going to listen, respect them, or even acknowledge them. Others are how they are because of who they are. Their actions have nothing to do with you. Their actions don't mean anything about you, even if they are directed intentionally toward you. They are how they are because of who they are. You do not need to let it affect you. When you create a boundary, if they don't listen to it or respect it, that's okay. Let them be how and who they are. It is then up to you as to how you want to move forward. Start seeing this person less. Stop seeing this person at all. Interact with this person differently. Don't hang out with them for as long of periods of time. It's always going to be very situational depending upon what it is you're talking about here and what boundary you're creating. But just because you start creating boundaries does not mean other people are going to listen to them. And vice versa. Other people's boundaries may not be something you agree with, and you don't necessarily have to respect them, but then you are going to have to deal with the natural consequence of that person either talking to you less, stopping talking to you, hanging out with you less, right? And here's the thing, our time is the most valuable thing we have in our life. It is the only thing we can't get more of. We can make more money. We can get a new car. We can change the apartment. We can move our plans from one side of the room to another. Other things in life can be changed, or more of said thing can be obtained or attained. Time cannot. And so if you are, quote unquote, wasting your time allowing other people to disrespect you, allowing other people to take and never give, being in these one-sided relationships with takers and not someone that has balance of giving and taking, number one, that's your own choice. And number two, that's time you can't get back. It is time. Oh yes, right now, it is time. It is time for you to start creating boundaries so that you can create a life that is respectful to you, a life that reflects who you are and who you want to be and the relationships you want to have in your life. This is your life. And whether you believe in past lives or future lives or not, this life right now is the only one you're going to get in this person. Do the journal prompts for this week. Create boundaries in very, very small ways to get used to it. Listen to the meditation as often as need be. And let me know what boundaries you're thinking you need to start creating.